Everyone, today we're gonna take a look at One Last Kill, a special spin-off from the Punisher series with Jon Bernthal. First things first, let's clear up what a special actually is. It is basically a standalone story, independent from the main series, but also from whatever comes next, because it doesn't necessarily mean a new season is on the way.
Oh yeah, I've heard rumors.
So for everyone out there dreaming of a solid season 3 for the Punisher, you might wanna sit tight on that one. With that out of the way, we catch up with Frank Castle, not without a little bit of anxiety, I'll be honest, in a short 45-minute adventure. Now you might be wondering, why the apprehension?
What the hell is the matter?
Well, for any self-respecting fan of vigilante justice, the Punisher is a rare treat, a dish reserved for true aficionados. Not many people actually remember the Dolph Lundgren take, which I'll skip for this review, but most of us look back with misty eyes and a good dose of nostalgia, hopefully, on the Thomas Jane and Ray Stevenson films. Uneven movies, sure, but ones where Frank Castle was brought to life by two outstanding actors who wore that costume like it was made for them.
No argument from me.
Then there is the first Netflix season, which was genuinely great, with Jon Bernthal this time, in a run that wasn't without its flaws but was overall very satisfying. Unfortunately, and I'm trying hard to forget this, that Punisher series also had a second season, which was less of a gritty crime thriller and more of a soap opera with delusions of grandeur.
Pretty swift move, you guys.
We were expecting a hideously disfigured Jigsaw, fresh off getting his face destroyed on a shattered mirror at the end of season 1. And instead we got what was basically a Zoolander extra, whispering sweet nothings to his therapist across a string of episodes that just kept getting more and more ridiculous.
I can't be friends with you if you look like that!
That's exactly why I went into this new chapter of the saga with a knot in my stomach. So, what's the verdict on this new Punisher? In a few words, it's not bad, and it won't tarnish the character, not even close, but I wouldn't call it a blazing comeback either. One Last Kill delivers a decent, fast-paced experience that's just a little lukewarm, and honestly, it's not gonna stick with you for long. We find Frank Castle adrift, wallowing in his own head, after successfully wiping out pretty much the entire criminal organization responsible for his family's death. A clean sweep that also shattered the fragile balance of power in the neighborhood, because with no Iron Fist keeping things in check, the area has descended into chaos, overrun by packs of ultra-violent thugs that the police, apparently operating with a single squad car, can't do a damn thing about. To get a feel for it, picture certain parts of France right now or Detroit in Robocop 2 and you'll have a pretty good idea of the vibe. On top of that, the last surviving member of the Mafia is dead set on revenge and she's sending every criminal in the neighborhood after the Punisher. Now if you're a real diehard fan of the character, this interlude should instantly remind you of the outstanding 2012 short film Dirty Laundry, and the comparison is pretty much unavoidable. Which makes total sense since Jon Bernthal, who serves here as actor, producer and co-writer, has openly admitted to drawing inspiration from Thomas Jane for this new chapter of the saga.
He says he doesn't want to lose his touch.
In terms of storytelling, both shorts deal with similar themes. The Punisher getting dragged into a bloody neighborhood showdown against his will, and even though both stories fit on the back of a napkin, One Last Kill doesn't really say much more despite running a full 30 minutes longer. If anything, Bernthal's special is needlessly padded out by the Punisher's trademark guilt trips, which show up as some pretty annoying apparitions and a string of flashbacks that are completely pointless for anyone who knows the character even a little.
There's just no end to it.
And those who don't can always go back and watch the old movies or the series, where they'll find all the context they could possibly need. Now some people seem to think that Jon Bernthal's take on Frank Castle is more psychologically developed than those of his predecessors. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of respect for the guy's work and I don't dislike his performance. There is something about him that reads like a cross between Stallone and De Niro, and he definitely channels that same intensity and inner tension both those guys are known for.
Exactly.
That said, I also think he lays it on pretty thick a lot of the time. The puppy dog expressions, the brooding head tilts, all of it teetering on the edge of self-parody. It's an overwrought melodramatic style that doesn't actually add any real depth to the character, and I'll take Thomas Jane's understated approach over it any day. Not to mention Ray Stevenson, whose weathered face and hard stare were enough on their own to sell the role. Bottom line, I like Bernthal, but when I picture the Punisher, those two guys come to mind first, and frankly their physicality just fits the part better in my book.
That sucker was this big!
One Last Kill has a bigger budget than Dirty Laundry but doesn't necessarily make better use of it. The special goes for more ambitious action sequences, closer to full-on urban warfare, whereas the Thomas Jane short stuck to a brief throwdown with a street gang in a sketchy alley. And sure, things eventually explode into a full-blown shootout in every direction, but none of it is built up with any real finesse, and the tension in One Last Kill never truly gets your blood pumping.
This should never happen.
Because once again, Dirty Laundry runs circles around it. The way that short handles everything leading up to the escalation is so much tighter. The mundane laundromat scene, playing on the contrast between Castle's everyday routine and the horrors happening just outside, and that casual chat with the local shop owner, both are way more gripping than watching Castle mope around his empty apartment for what feels like forever.
Alright, it's over. Enough with the tears, okay?
On top of that, in One Last Kill, Castle is forced into violence and stuck in a purely defensive position, whereas in Dirty Laundry it's the opposite. Thomas Jane's version is on the offensive, and that's just a hell of a lot cooler. Is that a sign of the times? I don't know, but the comparison does remind me of the whole debate around the Star Wars re-releases, where Han Solo no longer shoots first. Nothing kills a character faster than that kind of neutering, but let's not be too harsh either. If we're being a little generous, you could argue that in One Last Kill, the offensive already happened off the top, with Castle wiping out the mob family in an opening scene that's actually pretty brutal and does right by the character, even if the worst of it happens off-screen.
Sounds pretty feeble to me.
So Bernthal Special isn't exactly shy about the violence in its own way. The riot sequence, which is the centerpiece of the episode, is actually pretty solid. Brutal, gun-heavy, with just enough gore sprinkled in, though a few things do take the edge off my enthusiasm. The CGI is way too heavy, which, let's be honest, is nothing new at this point, and you're gonna be choking on digital blood whether you like it or not.
How sweet!
But that's just the world we live in now, and honestly that's not even the worst of it. For those who don't know, the sequence includes one completely botched scene featuring a 3D character that's unfortunately impossible to miss. Hard to tell if it's a real stunt with a CG face slapped on top, or a full digital mannequin, but one thing's for sure, it's painful to watch, and personally I would never have let that anywhere near the final cut.
No one will notice a thing.
The Punisher also makes some head-scratching tactical choices along the way, like why retreat to a rooftop with 0 exits, a situation he only gets out of because the script conveniently arranged for some construction work on the side of the building. Thank you, plot. And finally, at the risk of repeating myself, One Last Kill plays it pretty safe overall, and stays well clear of the sadism and all-out mayhem that Dirty Laundry delivered, where jaws and limbs were snapping left and right, in a ballet of ultra-violence, straight out of a Steven Seagal's golden era. And while that short leaned on CGI too, a high contrast look and tight editing went a long way toward hiding the seams. Finally, to wrap things up, this Punisher isn't woke, though a few choices do raise an eyebrow. Like the opening scene where a friendly black homeless guy gets jumped by a gang of particularly nasty skinheads, which feels more like the New York of Robocop and Death Wish than anything resembling the city today. A pretty jarring anachronism that reminded me of that equally on-the-nose corner store scene at the beginning of The Batman with Robert Pattinson. But outside of that, there's not much else worth flagging.
I shall now get to the point of this little discussion.
So to wrap it up, Punisher One Last Kill isn't bad, but it's not exactly great either. Despite the warning slapped at the beginning inviting viewers to make sure the content is right for them, this new Frank Castle adventure isn't going to shock anybody, not with its lukewarm stunts, its by-the-numbers shootouts and its half-hearted gore. That said, a few scenes do stick with you, including the bakery finale and one particularly brutal flashback. And despite the overwrought pathos and all those unnecessary trips down memory lane, Bernthal's Frank Castle holds up pretty damn well, all things considered.
If only you would apply yourself.
As for whether One Last Kill is truly memorable, that's a whole other question. I'd imagine casual fans of the character will get enough out of it, but for the hardcore crowd, it's probably not going to live up to the hype. And it's even rougher when you stack it up against that 2012 short, its minimalist blueprint, which beats it in every single department. Face it, not everyone can be Thomas Jane or Ray Stevenson, times have changed, and it's become damn near impossible these days to make a Punisher that's actually worthy of the name. Mean, violent, and sadistic the way we like it. So to borrow Frank Castle's own words from the ending of Dirty Laundry, does this new special deliver justice or punishment? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks to everyone following the channel, and that's gonna do it for today. See you soon for the next review.